keep letting people in.
Great.
So should we give them still, are you somebody giving me the heads up when to start, or just wait a few more minutes and then start?
Yeah, let everybody in first, and
Burl, give me that thumbs up or something. When
I will,
Okay, good.
since we can't see you, Mary. Oh, cute, Davida. I love some of the photographs that people put up of themselves. It's just so much fun. And everybody's keeping their video off. That's not fair. How can we see your faces and say hello? Oh, great. Hi, Sherry, and nice to see you.
Welcome, everyone. Turn your video on at least for a few minutes so we can say hi.
Davida said that was all her son. Well, your son's funny.
Hi, Julia.
Oh.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
I was trying to be subtle and say hi in a text, but hi. Oh, and there's my granddaughter.
What?
And there's my son. And there's my daughter-in-law.
Oh, there they are.
Hi.
Great support there.
Hi, Lydia.
And there's Claire.
I told you there's lots of familiar faces. We'll know practically everybody.
Oh, and there's Shirley. Hi, everybody.
It's Susan and Christine and Barbara, it's Sunny. Oh, Farley, you don't have on your video and I can't see your face, but hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
We have more people waiting to come, or should we get started?
Well, we said we were gonna, if you want to get started, go ahead. We said we were gonna wait a couple minutes, but it's
Right.
okay.
No, we can wait a couple more minutes till 5 after.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see everybody.
Such a beautiful day today. This is a true tribute to our love and interest.
And what's interesting is not everybody is a sister. That we have a few people on the call who maybe will be interested in joining.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Lydia, I haven't seen you in a while.
You're
Claire.
muted. Unmute yourself, Lydia.
Hi, I was just on a very long Zoom meeting, so I thought I wouldn't talk. But anyway, hello.
Okay, I just wanted to say hi. And hi, Andrea. Muted.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Ah,
Hi, Andrea.
Andrea is one of the stars along with Tevin of this whole film festival. I mean, we've all done a lot, but Tevin and Andrea have really been in the front.
Well, thank you so much for that, Beryl. And so let's never pass up an opportunity to thank our sponsors. So for all of those to you out there who are sponsors, thank you very, very much for supporting the festival. I think things are going really, really well. My granddaughter was making a surprise visit last night with her family, so I missed the community Havdalah, unfortunately. But the opening ceremony was really inspiring and really well attended. And I hope everybody's been enjoying the films, all the other films too.
Very much so. Pretty much taken over the TV in my house.
I know, it's crazy. Elephant here, elephant there,
Sandy.
elephant upstairs, elephant downstairs.
Elephant, yes.
And Sandy, you can take it away.
Okay, so hi, I'm Sandy Kaufman, and I am the Jewish co-leader in Chapter 6 here in Sacramento, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this Zoom afternoon. And we have a great panel. It's going to be exciting. I hope you all got a chance to see the movie last night. It is an absolutely exquisite movie. I loved it. I think I've seen it 3 times. So we have an amazing panel, and we'll start just quickly introducing the panel. We have Christian Kelly, who's the director and co-producer. And we have Katie Tabor, who's also the director. And we have Melanie Magis-Canali and Ann Kintrip, who are the co-founders of Sacramento chapters here. And we have Matina Jackson Fisher. I hope I got that right. Yes. And she's a member, a Muslim sister in chapter 3. So I want to just encourage you, if you have your own questions, to please put them in the chat. Hopefully we'll be able to get to most of them, but I'm going to start with a question or two. So let me introduce our absolutely amazing directors. We have Christian Kelly, who is the senior producer, and Christian is an Emmy award-winning documentary filmmaker who's currently the senior producer for Transform Films, overseeing development and production of long and short form documentaries. Recent credits include Stranger Sister, premiere of fall of 2020, Healing the Healers, communal trauma documentary series, won a Golden Telly Award in 2020, which supports clergy during moments of mass community trauma. Upcoming is Healing the Healers on Domestic Violence, fall of 2020 release, and her Emmy award-winning independent film, The Home Stretch, a feature documentary about homeless high school students in the Chicago public schools. Her work has been supported by ITVS, maybe you'll tell us who all these are, CPB, AMDOC, MacArthur Foundation, the Sundance Institute, Fledgling Fund, Chicken and Egg, Good Pitch, and Bertha Foundation Brit Docs. She has a diverse background in developing new content, which focuses on social justice issues. Kristen is a fellow at the Sundance Documentary Institute and a graduate of the Master's Directing Program at Juilliard School. Thank you for being here with us today. It's such a pleasure. And with her is Katie Tabor, her co-director. And Katie's recent documentary projects include producing Siempre Luis, which follows Luis Miranda, the father of Lin-Manuel Miranda, as he attempts to mount a production of Hamilton in Puerto Rico after the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Siempre Luis premiered at Sundance 2020 and will stream on HBO in October, so we should all take note of that and see it. She directed the Wavelength Productions feature How to Be Normal, which is the coming of age story of a young man who as a child, underwent a unique and controversial treatment for autism. Other projects include the PBS special Into the Night, Portraits of Life and Death, and the award-winning Milwaukee 53206. She has worked on films for the PBS series Frontline, including Life and Death and Assisted Living, Dollars and Dentist, and The Child Cases. And she was a co-producer on the Forefront 4-part PBS Nova series, The Fabric of the Cosmos. Tabor co-produced the Emmy award-winning featured documentary Home Stretch. So our question for you today is, neither one of you are Jewish or Muslim, and what inspired you to produce this absolutely exquisite film on sisterhood? What was your inspiration?
Well, I will kick it off for us. I just want to thank you, Sandy, for such lovely introductions of us, and just thank the Sacramento Jewish Film Festival for including the film. It's really an honor, and it's just a pleasure to share this work with as many people out there as we can. So thank you both. So we heard about the Sisterhood sort of just after the 2016 election, when a lot of people kind of first encountered them. There was the article in the New York Times that certainly brought the Sisterhood to a lot of folks' attention. So we started to kind of track what was happening with their activities a little bit, and reached out to Cheryl and Atia, the co-founders, and decided to do a little bit of filming with them in New Jersey at a rally after the Muslim ban was put in place. When we first started thinking about the Sisterhood, we really envisioned sort of just a short film, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, that fit into kind of a larger faith series that Kirsten and Transform, they had been doing sort of shorter films that looked at different faith issues, and we thought this could kind of fit into that fabric. So we went to that first night of filming, and sometimes as a filmmaker, you just have these, first shoot or first couple of shoots, and you realize, there's really something deeper here. There's something is speaking to me that I think can speak to a much larger audience. So for myself, I was always, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Jewish. I come from, as does Kirsten, pretty Midwestern Christian background. So there certainly was a curiosity around the faith issues, but from the get-go for me, I always felt that the ethic and the clarity of purpose that the sisterhood had would always speak to a much wider audience, would always speak sort of to a diverse audience, both people of faith and people not of faith. And the questions around the power of intentional relationships just struck to the heart for me of what we as Americans were going to be dealing with from that moment in 2017, certainly up through now, right? So it became a lens for me around those questions. It became a way to encounter the moment we were in with hope. I mean, for me, the sisterhood has always been a place to continually return to when I needed to think about what was the best of themselves that Americans were sort of bringing to the current moment. And beyond that, I was immediately moved by an idea around what women-centered leadership might look like in now and as we sort of move forward. And there was something that the sisterhood brought to that question for me about leadership that is given by a group and that is developed through collaboration and through a system of women lifting each other up to make leaders out of women who might never have considered themselves leaders, didn't know what kind of leadership they could bring to the moment, right? So that was a question that we continued to ask and develop throughout filming, but it struck me right at the beginning. So those for me are some of the things that inspired me. Kirsten, I don't know if you want to add a couple thoughts.
You're muted, Kate. Kirsten, you're muted.
Thank you. All that, and I would just say really anchoring in on the hope, the first couple of film shoots, was just this overwhelming sense of possibility. And I think that especially during that time, and, I think we all had been to, so many rallies and this sort of very outward facing ways that people were attempting to change what was happening. And they were really important, but it felt like what we were witnessing was something very different and something very needed based on really building connectivity within communities and change within communities. And that this was such a possible model, like right in your living room. And you could really look around and say, you know what, change happens when I can intentionally start building friendships between women, between men, between children, with people from different faiths, from different religions, from different backgrounds, and doing that in a really intentional way. And I think that's what we really tried to keep as a thread in the film, is this very change is possible in your own living room.
Well, I think you guys captured it beautifully. It really touched my heart. I lived in the Middle East for 6 years and had some experience coming back here to gather Muslims and Jews together. And what you guys started with, the sisterhood started, is just phenomenal. So I'm so appreciative of this film. It was absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. So our next question is for Melanie Mages-Canali, who is one of the co-founders and co-chairs of the Sisterhood in Sacramento. In her first act, Melanie was a special ed high school teacher, and before starting her own photography business in 1981. Meanwhile, she was raising 2 kids as a single mom and taking care of her 100-year-old farmhouse in Carmichael. Melanie retired in 2016, and in addition to her work with Sisterhood, she now spends her time enjoying her kids and her grandkids and gardening, playing piano, and her new little puppy, Walter. So Melanie's efforts have clearly tapped into a need in our community. In 3 years, the local Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom in Sacramento grew to 6 chapters plus a teen chapter. So the question for you, Melanie, is, could you please share with us what was the inspiration that moved you and Ann to start the Sacramento Sisterhood, and which has expanded so quickly? It was clearly a tremendous need that we women have here in Sacramento. So tell us how it all began.
In 2016, I saw an article about Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom, and they were on the front page of the New York Times, I think in October. And probably in November of, well, actually in November of 2016, I went to my rabbi, Rabbi Alfie, because I felt that I was being told to be afraid of Muslims. I was supposed to be afraid of Muslims. And I'm going, I don't even know any Muslims. And I'm an old lady now. And how do I not know a Muslim person, let alone I'm supposed to be afraid? And I went to Rabbi Alfie and said I'd heard about this group and felt the need to bring it to Sacramento. She connected me with Bina Lefkowitz, who was the incoming president. And together we got to meet Ann Kemtrep, my partner in crime. And it was an instant connection between us, although I always tease Ann and she always laughs. But I had said I wanted to do this and she said, oh, we've tried this before. She was like Eeyore. And she said, we've tried this before. It doesn't work so well, but we'll try it again. And in January of 2017, we formed a small group and we got together at my house. And there was, I think, 6 Jewish women, 6 Muslim women. And we just formed instant friendships. And it's all just based on not changing the world, but just making a difference one by one. Just how can we connect with one another? And I had new close friends that I just love. Our chapter grew to 18. It's based on the contact theory by Gordon Allport, which is it's easy to be afraid of those people you don't know, but once you get to know them, it's harder. And once you love them, it's impossible. And our friends started hearing more about, what are you doing? And what is this group? And the more we would tell them, the more they were all saying, I want to do that. I want to do that. And in January of 2018, chapter 2 was formed. I think in August of 2018, chapters 3 and 4 were formed. We couldn't keep the chapters, we couldn't keep the wait list, small because so many people wanted to join it. And again, it's all just based on friendship and our commonalities rather than changing the world. And I'm just an ordinary person. I was never a big activist. And somehow there's a lot of us just ordinary people that are in these chapters. And we're over 100 women now with the teen chapter. And there's also a men's chapter. So anyway, Anne, do you want to add to that?
Well, maybe I'll wait for there's a little bit I could add to it, but you covered.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead?
Sure. And then
Yeah.
I'll introduce you and introduce your questions, special for you.
Yeah, thanks. So, I'm glad you mentioned that contact theory by Gordon Allport, because that's really the key that has brought groups that theoretically are disparate together. And one of the major points of it is that you're coming together, with a structure, and the structure is sisterhood. And, as Melanie talks about me being the Eeyore, it's because when we tried to get these groups together before, we didn't have that structure. And so really it's the support that we get from the sisterhood at multiple levels that anyone can tap into, all our sister chapters and this kind of stuff that really provides the foundation for these groups to get together and then do those things of building friendships.
Thank you both so much for working your magic. You truly have worked magic in Sacramento. There are so many people interested, and there did pop up a question, how do you decide when to form a new chapter? So maybe you could give a quick answer to that, Melanie.
We have far more Jewish women than we have Muslim women. And before COVID, we, rather than form a new chapter, we plugged people into chapters, but it was right before COVID. And it's hard to become close to other people on Zoom, although I think most of them are still there and we're still hanging in there. But the wait list right now, I think, is about 15. And once quarantine is done, we'll probably start another chapter, maybe another 2 chapters, depending on how big the wait list gets. But the people on the wait list at this time are joining community members, meaning, in other words, we do a monthly newsletter, we have regional activities, and we also do social justice activities, and they get to be part of that. We do marches when you can go out there and march. And so people on the wait list can become part of the community members. And then when we're able to open up a chapter, when quarantine is done, we'll do that.
And if I can add to that real quick, it's really important, again, part of that whole contact theory is that you come together as equals. And so for the chapter situations, we try really hard to keep the Muslim-Jewish balance even. And so that's the other factor that determines whether we're going to open one or not. But I really like our regional membership approach because that way everyone can kind of participate when we have our regional events.
Someone asked a question, and I saw in the chat room, I think it was Lydia, why are there more Jewish women than Muslim women? And I think that's a question both Anne and I would answer, but in reality, the Jewish community, the Jewish women have been here pretty much longer than the Muslim community. And we jump out there and we want to do these groups. But I remember when my family first came to this country, they stayed together. It was the Jewish people stayed with the Jewish people. The Muslim people that's what they're doing at this time. Anne, you want to fill in for me?
Well, before we answer, it's a great segue into the question I want to ask Anne, but I want to brag a little bit about Anne too. So our Dr. Ann Kimtrup is an active member of the Muslim community in the broader Sacramento area. So in addition to all the work she does for Salaam Shalom, she's involved in the management team at Salaam Islamic Center of Sacramento and participates in several local Muslim and interfaith organizations. And she believes that the active participation in these organizations is not only important for the community, but positive influences on her family, with all of them also engaged in all the volunteer efforts. Professionally, Dr. Kindrup works as an epidemiologist with the California Department of Public Health. So the question for you, Anne, is, and it's a segue in, was perfect. Can you share what it means to you as a Muslim to be a part of the sisterhood and what it has been like to invite other Muslim sisters to join?
Yes. So as a Muslim in this community, and I'm also coming to the community, I converted to Islam over 30 years ago. And because I've been fortunate to be in these different organizations and management, people have gotten to know me. So, I am really aware of, the political situation here, both of Muslims and Jews. And, unlike Melanie, I knew a lot of Jewish people. And so when I, brought this to my Muslim sisters, this idea, particularly in my immediate circle. So I went first to my immediate circle, and people were quite excited to participate. And so again, this is really kind of how we got our initial chapters. And then kind of the second reaction is, I'd love to do that, but I just don't have the time. And that kind of gets to, Melanie's point, and that is that Muslims are really still in the institution building stage. We are building our mosques, we are building our, medical centers, we are building our all these different kind of support structures. And so the type of people who are going to be really involved in doing this kind of outreach, they're tapped out. And then of course there's also this question of, there's a little bit of mistrust, right? I mean, it's like, why do I want to join into, an organization like this? And so where that then gets bridged is when we ask some of our Muslim sisters to ask their friends to join. And they see, oh, they're having a good time, I want to come in and join. And then that ends up building those bridges more. What has been a really big gift for me, in addition to meeting all these wonderful Jewish sisters and actually even brainstorming with some of them about institutional building, that's been a gift for me too. But meeting all these Muslim sisters that I didn't know I had. So that's also been, a real gift for me. And I feel like being part of Sisterhood is not only expanding this interfaith community, but it's actually also supporting the Muslim community, as together we realize we have a lot of commonalities, particularly at this time when we're fighting the same tropes and the same, anti kind of thing. So it's really uplifting for me.
Thank you. Thank you both. So next I'd like to introduce Matina Jackson-Fisher, who is a member of the Salaam Shalom Chapter 3. She's owner of Jackson LMS Associates Incorporated, a change management company. It's located in Sacramento, Atlanta, my hometown, and Wilmington. Originally from Wilmington, Matina has resided in Sacramento for the past 4 years, and she's the mother of 2 grown sons. So welcome, Matina, and I'd love to ask you to share a little bit about what it was like for you to join a chapter and how has it impacted your life?
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm glad to be here, everyone. So I'm just going to give the greeting. Assalamu alaikum. I was invited to join the chapter by Ann directly. I was attending Salaam Islamic Center, and she kind of knows me. She filled me out a little bit, but she knows that, I like to be involved in a lot of interfaith groups. So it was really a natural for me to join one of the chapters. I am a part of Chapter 3, Sacramento Chapter 3 since 2018. I was recently relocated to Sacramento, so it's perfect timing. And what I love about Sisterhood is just the camaraderie that we have. And I know it's COVID, so, pre-COVID, we met a lot, once a month. We actually did some marches, some political activism. We've also did a lot of charity, luncheons, one-on-ones. Right now we're into letter writing campaigns. So there's a lot for us to do, and it kind of filled me up in a way where it's more than just going out and hanging out with people. It's more sisterhood there, a lot of love there. You kind of feel it, you got to, you feel inclusive. So no matter what's going on in your life, as far as your beliefs, just being together and coming together as one, we really, we've seen that we're stronger together. We can bring up different topics with each other. We're not afraid to discuss those hard conflict issues. We're able to talk about them. I've also been called something called a triple threat. A triple threat is that I am a female, African American, and Muslim. And, so that's a lot of mixed up there, so being able to share that with the sisters of chapter 3 really opened up a lot for me. And I'm really glad to be there. I see some of my sisters are here with me now. So thank you guys for coming. And I look forward to continuing on being in this organization and, do as much as I can to elevate it, as well as bringing in more Muslim sisters. I know that's a thing. And I've also reached out to several, and hopefully once we open up again, we can show them, how well we do together and all the different activities and things that we do.
Thank you so much, Matina. I so echo what you're saying. Being a part of a chapter is just kind of an amazing thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So Kristen and Katie, I'd love to ask you guys about, I think it's called the Impact Project. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that. I don't think a lot of people know. So whoever would like to begin.
Sure. Transform Films, the company, the production company behind the film, is an amazing organization that also has a sister organization called Odyssey Impact. And they build entire engagement campaigns around social justice films. They often have a multi-faith piece of the story. So they are looking for often stories that bring the sort of secular and multi-faith communities together around social justice issues within communities. So we're excited this month. We're launching a 1-year impact campaign that's based on grassroots community screenings. We purposely made the film to be at around 40 minutes because we really wanted the film to partner with dialogue events. So using the film is a catalyst for different organizations in the communities to begin working together, possibly across lines of difference, to inspire more interfaith work, community work, and just learning about each other. So really taking the mission of the sisterhood and just kind of bringing it out to an even broader audience. I know that Cheryl and Atia have talked from the beginning about wanting to do this film because wanting to bring in more understanding and bridge building to, other faiths and other secular community organizations as well. Not necessarily bringing them into the sisterhood per se, but really bringing them into as the sort of rising, just awful hate that has happened in the last years, really countering that with a broader audience. So, we have calls to action. We bring the film to your community. We hope that sisterhood chapters work with mosques, synagogues, churches in their community, interfaith organizations, social justice organizations to encourage further dialogue based on the mission. So I'm super, super excited. And I'm going to put just a copy of some quick kind of calls to action in the chat that the campaign is based on. And, if you have any questions or want to bring it to your community for community screening, we have toolkits and we have all the things you need to do that, and discussion guides and education guides to bring it to the classroom. So there's a lot of support around it, and we're really excited.
That is fantastic.
I'll just add one little bit.
It's amazing. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to add that it's, it's, as Kristen was saying, it's very scalable, right? So we're going to have institutional partners that are with us on the campaign. We'll have educational partners, but it's scalable to, family units and large family gatherings that you can have at home, and discussion support resources for any level that one would want to engage in the impact. So sometimes a phrase like impact campaign can make it seem like it's something that's out of reach for you, but this is really made to be a scalable resource. So if you have any interest in sort of participating on that level, definitely, check out what's available.
It sounds so well thought out and so wonderful that everybody should be able to be impacted by it, no matter what age or stage of life they are. I loved what was happening in the movie when you guys added the children's part and they were doing what's common between Muslims and Jews. It was just beautiful. So we do have a couple of other questions, and this is for, let me get back to it. This is for Anne and Melanie. And I think, Anne, you had mentioned you might be able to answer this. In the film, there was a difficult discussion about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Have the Sacramento chapters tackle this conversation? How about BDS, which is almost universally opposed by Jews as it is seen as an anti-Israel? It is seen as anti-Israel as a country, not anti those currently in power in Israel.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up that question because, you know, that's usually the first question, you know, I either get from Muslim sisters or also was the source of my Eeyore kind of thing. You know, you can happily get together and have discussions, but what happens when conflicts in the Middle East or the Israeli-Palestinian issue comes up? And that's usually when our groups had broken down because nobody had tools or the ability to discuss these sort of things. So importantly, the Sisterhood really strongly recommends that chapters don't actually tackle those topics until they've been together for at least a year. And the reason for that is because you really need to, this is what they really say, is you need to listen to this with, you're listening with your heart. And you can't listen from your heart if you haven't made these personal connections in all these different ways. Our chapter, I'll give an example for our chapter. Melanie and I, in our early, you know, we were about together for a year and we said, okay, now let's do it, you know? And so we just made this declaration that we were going to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I suddenly started getting phone calls. She started getting phone calls and people became very nervous. And so when we sat down and had our meeting, we had about half our normal folks showing up. And we realized that we had approached it the wrong way. So what we did instead is sit down and have the conversation of, are we ready to have that conversation? And that was really, really valuable because it basically laid the groundwork for people to feel comfortable and to say, now I understand why we're going that route. So our next meeting where we did have, you know, begin that conversation, we had everybody show up. And we did it in a facilitated manner. And we really just laid out a question, which is, what is your connection to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? And, you know, the end result of it is, you know, we're not trying to change anybody, anybody's viewpoint. But, you know, by this point, we so knew each other and so valued each other that each person's input was so important and contained that much more meaning and significance for us. And it broke down a lot of assumptions, which is really, really critical in these conversations. It broke down assumptions, not just, you know, that you know, the Muslims may have had for the Jews, but you know, Jews for Jews and Muslims for, so it opened up kind of a new space for us. And, you know, as Melanie will often say, we're not going to change the world. Our goal is not to change the world in terms of getting out there and politically, you know, making things think a certain way. But the fact that we have come together and be able to discuss this and share and value each other's experience, you know, it makes you see the world in a totally different way. And so Melanie, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but we're not going to, you know, and since then, you know, we've taken on other little kind of topics. We have not taken on something like BDS in specific. You know, if we were to take that on, we would be done in a thoughtful, careful process to think about, you know, how we would want to do that, you know, to expand and deepen our connections. Melanie, do you have anything to add to that?
You pretty much hit everything that I was going to say. But at that meeting, when we did talk about how we felt about Israel and Palestine, what's our connection? And we have sisters that range in age from late 30s through probably high 70s, and people born all over the world. And to hear one sister talking about when she was in Egypt in school, and she was young, and she said one day there was Jewish students and Egyptian students, and the next day there were no more Jewish students. And you knew, and she couldn't understand, and you knew she was coming from a completely different vantage point than somebody else. And it was just getting everybody's feelings. And it really kind of opened up the way we look at the situation. And we will have more conversations about it. But that first conversation, I think, really stuck with all of us and made us even closer, even though we're coming from very different vantage points. We also have listening circles where we teach each other how to listen, not to interrupt, not to push your viewpoint on somebody else. So I think that kind of answers that question, I hope.
Yes, yes, thank you for your thoughtful.
And if I can finish with one more comment, there was a statement in the film that I so agreed with from Matina, and that is, you know, for millennia, Jewish and Muslim have lived together. And in fact, that if you look at the big time thing, it's more the norm than the exception. And so again, it's not the focus of our, you know, everything we do. And that's what I think is also important. So it's not an elephant in the room, but it doesn't define us either.
Thank you guys for such a thoughtful answer. And I want to take this opportunity to just brag a little bit about the two of you. These guys are like amazing two co-leaders. They're so creative and so imaginative, and they put out an amazing, Melanie puts out an amazing newsletter that I think even if you're not a sister in this chapter, you could get on that list. Is that correct, Melanie? Is that possible? You're muted.
Sorry.
Is that
as long as the people are on the regional list.
Okay.
Yes, everybody and their uncle could be on that newsletter, which is very long.
It is
everyone and their aunt, maybe, right?
Everyone and their aunt, sorry. I think Tevin is on it.
It is a beautiful newsletter. It truly, truly is. It must take you hours. And it is just really, you guys have done such a great job at getting all the other chapters on board with such amazing guidance. So thank you for that as well. So there's been another question about, is there any chapters on college campuses anywhere? Maybe not in Sacramento, but anywhere else? Yes, Anne.
So I'll answer that. The Sisterhood has developed teen chapters, but they specifically have chosen not to go onto campuses. And the reason why they don't want to go onto campuses is because campuses are really a place of activism, which is wonderful. This is when the youth are really kind of developing, their viewpoints and so on. And it really would be very consuming to try to, manage a college campus sisterhood. Instead, they really encourage looking to, there's an interfaith, I'm going to look this up and I'll put it in the chat when I find it. An interfaith kind of global network by Ibu Patel, and he's put a lot of these kind of programs on campus, and they have a very similar base where you're bringing people from different backgrounds together, same concepts, but don't want to reinvent the wheel and put those energies there, because there's many other programs that are there already to do that.
Thank you. So there is one of my favorite parts of being a part of the Sisterhood is all the social justice activities that we've participated in the last few years. And they're so much fun, and they're really at the heart of what the Sisterhood is about. And so I'm wondering if you could share a few of those. And Matina, you could share, and Melanie, any one of you could share some of them. There's been so many. And great ones.
Oh yeah, I can share on that. So I really appreciate it. So I know everybody can remember a lot of the struggle that African Americans here in the United States have faced. I really felt the support of Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom during this time. Well, it's all the time, but it's, you know, during the whole George Floyd, you know, that's still going on right now. As an African American, as a Muslim, as a female, as a sister, I feel that I have support. I feel like I can reach out to any one of you, you know, and you can understand my struggle. And so that's really important to me because, you know, you can't just talk to anybody about this, but I know that on both sides of the spectrum, as far as the Muslims here and the Jewish women, it covers everything. So I see a lot of similarities there as far as what we're going through in civil rights, as far as what's going on the other side of the world. So it's really important to me that I have my sisters and that I can reach out to any of them at any time, and that I feel that we are supported in every way.
That is so wonderful to hear. It's been such a horrific year. It really has. It's kind of just really hard to wrap our brains around it. Still, with George Floyd especially, that was just mind-boggling. I can't even, you know, wrap my brain. So thank you for sharing that again and just bringing it to our attention. And I'm so happy that it felt like it was such a supportive community for you. Anne and Melanie, you guys want to add something? Yes, Melanie.
When the Tree of Life Synagogue was bombed, and then B'nai Israel had that big service, the entire sanctuary was absolutely filled with all of our Muslim sisters and their family members and their friends. I mean, everyone was pouring out. They were sitting on the stage. They were out in the hallways. And again, it's like with Matina, it's just the support. You know, we want to be there for you. You're there for us. We're all just one. And I think that's really important. You had also asked Sandy about, weren't you asking about social justice activities?
Yeah.
What we do. So we do a lot of the marching, a lot of different marches, but we also do breakfasts at Loaves and Fishes, where we used to be able to serve the breakfast, not just collect the foods. During COVID, we have still been doing the breakfasts for 260 people, but hopefully one of these days soon, hopefully, we can serve the breakfast also. And we've also done coat drives. Every December, we have a Sadaka event. And we can do it regionally. We can do individual chapters. We've done, and Anne, you probably can remember some that I can't remember, and other sisters on the call also, but there was a coat drive that was very successful. There was at Mustard Seed School. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, our first Sadaka event in December. And we entertained the kids, but there was way more of us than there were kids at the Mustard Seed School. So we kind of entertained each other and the kids. We did a fill-a-purse activity. We did fill a backpack. What were some other ones? Chapter 2 has done ones on their own.
We've given to the Muslim Food Bank.
The Muslim Food Bank, Arazak.
I think that gives a really nice variety. And we have one more question for our producers. So I'm going to jump to that last question. I think it probably will be our last one, but thanks for sharing all that. Those little projects are so much fun, especially the fill-a-purse was great. For Kirsten and Kelly, did you decide to go into filmmaking careers, or did your interest in social justice issues bring you to choose film as a vehicle to make change? What a great question. So who would like to go first?
Yes, what a great question. Wow, I think there is an intersectionality that maybe is even hard to kind of pull apart for oneself. I will say that both Kirsten and I came from theater backgrounds. And so storytelling was sort of at the core of who we were. That was an important, we wanted to be telling stories. And I think that we both came to filmmaking in slightly different ways. Obviously, Kirsten will speak for herself. I would say that for me, the social justice was always tied to the filmmaking. My desire, part of moving from theater into filmmaking was because I wanted to reach a broader audience than theater could reach. And so part of wanting to reach that broader audience was because I felt there were important things to say. There were important messages I wanted to get across. There was important reporting. I was in investigative reporting worlds for a while. There were just things I wanted to get to a larger public. So I would say that yes, for me, I had an innate storytelling drive, and then it combined with things that I thought were important to get out. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for me, just the first couple of documentary film projects that I started morphing into from theater really had that social justice sort of piece of the story, and it just was like a light bulb came on for me, and said I just really wanted to dedicate my life to this and figure out how to look at these, how to look at different social justice issues or questions from a very human journey level. Like, how can we go in through people and their experiences and tell really truthful, hard, but hopeful stories? And I think that's really been the guide. And if it doesn't kind of connect to that social justice piece, that's a harder to keep the engine going, because these films take so long. I mean, from you imagine us starting to film in the beginning of 2017, and here we are just getting this out now. And sometimes when you're doing films that are like for a big broadcast place, you have 6 weeks, get it done quick, tell the story. With these kinds of more independent films, you have a longer chance to be with people as change happens over time. And I think that's where that kind of really interesting piece of the storytelling comes in for me. So.
And that there's also, Kirsten and I both share a strong desire to build relationships while we're filming as well. And that was really a key component of this film, is that throughout all these years, we were building relationships with, Cheryl and Atia, obviously, but then, chapter after chapter and sister after sister. And that allowed us to deepen the kind of stories we wanted to tell. And we wouldn't have been able to even get to the point at which we could film conversations around the Israel-Palestine conflict had we not been there for 2 or 3 years to kind of build trust and build these relationships. So that's, it's a crucial part of any kind of deep story like this. And the result of this amount of time, I think, shows in the film, but it certainly has impacted us as filmmakers and as people and as women as well. So there's just this, dialogue between us as filmmakers, but obviously subjects like these and subjects as inspiring as these, they fill us up as well. So for me, choices to make work like this is as much a part of sort of filling up my engine as it is, giving these stories out to other people as well.
Those are wonderful, wonderful answers. Thank you so much. It's about time for us to end. What was a great question to end on. Thank you, Jessica, for that question. I really want to thank the panel. Kirsten, she's screen sharing. Kirsten and Katie, I want to thank you so very much for producing this film. If anybody has an impact on gathering more sisters together, it will be this film. It was exquisite and brought tears to my eyes. And I want to thank the panel. You guys were great. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you'll see many more of the great films that the festival has to offer this coming weeks. And as you can see on screen sharing, if you want more information, please take notes. Lots of information was given today. And thank you all so very, very much. was a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue doing the work, Katie and
Thank
Kristen.
you.
You guys are really amazing.
Thank you. Well, thank you to the Sacramento Jewish Film Festival for providing this, opportunity for the film and other films. It looks like such a great slate. Super excited that everyone can see these great films together. So
I hope you'll get invited to many, many more festivals to share.
thank you.
Thank you.
Really a touching film.
Have a great day.
Sandy, can I make a brief comment?
Absolutely, Tevin, our absolute amazing film director. Yes, welcome, Tevin.
Hi, everyone. So thank you so much. We're so happy that this film was part of our festival. And thank you all for joining us. I do want to say a couple things. This film is still available to be viewed from now until midnight tomorrow night. And I also want to have a shout out to another film we're presenting March 12th to March 14th, a film called A Common Goal, which is a film about Jews and Muslims on the Israeli national soccer team. So it's a very powerful documentary that's just came out last year. So I encourage you to see that film as well. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Tevin. That was great.
Thank you, Matina and Anne and Melanie. And Sandy,
Thank
did
you.
a great job.
If anybody wants to stay on and chat a minute, you're welcome to unmute yourselves.
Have a good day, everybody.
That was really beautifully done. Sandy, you did a great job and everybody was very eloquent. It was really a good panel. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Sandy, you did awesome. Burley, you did great.
Andy, you really were excellent. I knew you were the right person to do the moderating.
Well, truth be known, I had to take a beta blocker. Calm down before doing it.
You are too funny. Okay.
All right. Looks
Oh,
like
this was great. This was great. And Burl, you're very you're like inept with those, like with your headphones. You always wear headphones on every single meeting, and I love it. You're like reminding me of my son.
I hope that's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but he's always on the headphones. I don't do headphones for some reason, but he's always on them.
Kristen,
This is the only way I can really hear.
I saw you waving, and I just want to say it was such a delight to meet you. Even
Yes.
being this way, it was wonderful.
This was one of the best ones we've been on. So thank you. It was really fun and deep and just a lot of joy and energy around it. So thank you.
Made my
everyone.
afternoon.
It was just such a pleasure to really hear your story in so face to face. It really was delightful. Thanks, Kirsten, so much.
Well, good luck with the rest of the festival. We're so honored to be part of it. And we'll be posting a picture from this and push people in the Sacramento area to go see it before tomorrow midnight.
Great.
All right. I think we'll all sign off now.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.